Welcome back, everyone. As promised, today I'm going to tie a fairly simple fly. It's really constructed out of nothing but ice dub and some flashaboo if you want. It's crystal flash. It's going to be a glass minnow. In the vise, I have a Mustad C47 SD shrimp hook. Any hook will do, short shank will work. This is just what I have on hand. And the bobbin, I have Danville 210 and white. And we're going to go ahead and start this. Not a very hard fly to tie. I'm going to do my best to show the tips and tricks that help me to tie it. I'm just going to work my thread back. I'm going to go down the bend a bit. Just kind of give myself a preference point to stop. I'm going to work down the bend pretty good. Come back up to where before the bend starts. And I have a single piece of saltwater flashaboo. I don't know the thickness, but it is the whiter stuff. And we're just going to tie that in. And take it back down the bend of the hook to where we stopped our thread. Get that locked in really good. I'm going to come to about the midway point, and I'm going to pull some thread out. I don't know if you'll be able to see this, but this is how I dub stuff. I use a little bit of Loon Low-Tex wax, and I just put a little bit on the thread to help the dubbing stick, pretty much, so I can't use my fingers to twist it. And for making kind of like, I guess, the stomach of the fly for the transparency, I'm going to use some UV pink ice dub. Pull off a little bit. And just like that, I use the inner parts of my wrist right here where it's flat. And I just twist it. Sorry, at the camera. Twist it up. And tighten my thread. And we're going to come back a little bit. And just kind of build a little dubbing ball. Just take my thread up because I want plenty of room right behind where the dubbing is. I don't know how well that's going to be on camera, where you have a decent little spot to tie in the rest of the ice dub because we have 3 different colors. I'm going to go ahead and half hitch that because I'm going to use the rotary on the vise. It's not pretty, but I do what I gotta do. If you can, you don't need hackle pliers on this part. I have to use them. So grab your flashaboo with your hackle pliers or your hands, and I'm just going to start wrapping it. And I like it down on the bend of the hook a little bit, just to give it a little more flashy underbody. come to the dubbing ball, we're just going to keep wrapping right over that. So this fly, when it gets wet, it's very transparent. Move my thread out of the way here. I'm going to wrap about halfway back down it. Sorry about the footage. I'm trying to film on my phone still. It doesn't work out the best. I'm kind of running out of room here. See if I can. Yep, that happens. That is alright. We will just redo that. I'm going to turn this light off. Hopefully it helps a little bit with y'all being able to see. So what we'll do is just re-grab that and start wrapping again. For the hackle pliers, how I open them, just hold them in my knuckle like that and then push on them with my other hand. These aren't the normal hooks I use for this fly, but my regular ones are out, and this is just what I have laying around for right now. And I would use my bobbin cradle, but I have a ton of flies on it. For this upcoming trip that I'm going to be taking. And I'm going to fish probably the entire time. Have a lot of time to make up, lost time to make up for. And once again, wrap over the dubbing. And then I'm going to wrap back to about halfway, maybe not so much. Just come back over the dubbing ball. And then back forward. Keep messing with the camera, so hopefully this turns out until I can get a GoPro or some kind of better little camera. Go ahead and tie that off. I like to wrap back up on it because flash is pretty slick. Go ahead and cut away the excess. I want the dubbing to start somewhere just before the dubbing ball. And the one I'm going to start with first is UV Pearl. A nice dub can be a little bit of a pain to work with. Trying to get it to where the fibers are all the same length, and if you can pre-taper, go for it. If not, it looks pretty good once it gets wet anyway. And you will lose some, so got about that much there. take it and just pull the stuff out that's going to come off, because it does happen. And you don't really have to worry about it too much. Once it gets wet, it looks longer than it is. Now the stuff in the front, just pull it over. Just wrap over it a couple times. Now we got our first material on. And you can sit here and play with the fiber forever and get it all over you until you get the length that you want. But we got our UV pearl on. Now the next color I'm going to do is just a tad of UV lavender. I think it gives it kind of a cool look to it. Nice color contrast. None of this we're not going to pull out as much. Try to get it to where the fibers are aligned. About that much. Lay that on top. And for this being so much of it came off, I'm going to tie in this other little piece. In the video, when I'm editing, I'll try to put up a picture of one that's wet that I've tied before. One of my practice ones. So you'll kind of get the idea, because it's hard for me to try to pre-taper stuff and get it to where it really looks good. So just a hint of the lavender on top. Try to brush back as much of the fiber as you can. And with this, I'm just tying it right on top of it. Each stack is going right on top of itself to help build up a nice little head. And the problem with ice stubs is it does get everywhere. I'm going to do a little cleanup around the eye of the hook. And the last color. Now before we tie in the last color, I'm going to take a couple strands of silver crystal flash. Isolate a couple strands here. Lay it on top. Tie that in, and then take your other strand and pull it over so it's doubled. And this I will cut just a bit longer than the fiber, So once the fiber gets wet and lays down, then look pretty good. Alright, now for the last color. On this particular one, I'm going to do Ice Dubs Steely Blue, or Blue Steely. I like it. I think it looks pretty good. Same thing, pulled you out a nice little clump. Doesn't have to be super big. About that much. Lay it on top. And then pull out the excess. With this, you always have a little extra coming out. And that's alright. Like I said, once it gets wet, it all lays down, and it's a pretty neat looking little fly. If I was able to fish, it'd be something I'd throw around lights or anywhere you got a school of glass minnows or where they're feeding on smaller transparent bait fish. I'm just cleaning up the head a bit here. Grab my whip finish tool. There you go. One more last step I'm going to do is I'm going to take my comb and I'm going to comb it out. I was going to put eyes on it, but I'll leave it as is just to try to save a little bit of time. Just putting eyes on stuff takes me a while. Pick them up with the bodkin and set the glue, but you see how you build up a nice little head, then you just put your eye on either side. I'm going to take my brush or my comb all that out. And that's all there is to that fly. When it gets wet, especially with the pearl ice dub, it really gets that transparent look. Really fun little fly to tie. Doesn't take very long. If your hands work and you're good with the material, then a couple of minutes each fly. That's it. You can see underneath, barely. And you can see where the flash boot ends. It just adds to the flashiness of the body, and you could, if you can get the fiber long enough, maybe some EP Thunderstruck or something like that, you could probably tie these big enough where snook, tarpon, maybe even Spanish, king, stuff like that would go after it. Hopefully with my coming up trip, I will be able to film some for you. I'm going to try to find a sibling or somebody or see if I can set my phone up on my lap and try to film some casting, hopefully some catching. That's the goal. But stay tuned. Maybe next week, after next week, we'll start doing some of the trout flies. Hopefully I can try to figure out how to film a little better where you can see more, because the flies I'll be tying on are size 12s, 14s. So they're kind of small, hard to see. But I hope you enjoy the video. If you did, leave a thumbs up. Subscribe if you're new. I'm just trying to show you how I tie flies. My flies are not pretty. They're not perfect, especially with what I'm working with. But if you're in my situation and you want to learn, it is possible. It takes a little bit of time, a little frustration, but it is possible to do. And I'm gonna show you my tips, tricks, everything I use that helps me produce these flies. I will leave a link in the description of my Instagram. You can follow me there. I post a lot of flies I tie, fishing pictures, all of that. But I hope you all enjoy this video. You can leave a comment if there's flies that you would like to see me try. Let me know. But until next time, y'all have a good one.